So now we're going to talk about what are the symptoms that occur when the cranial nerves are damaged or lesioned. And they're going to split into these two general categories of positive signs and negative signs. Negative signs being paralysis, deafness, blindness, etc. A loss of a function, that's a negative sign. But a release of a positive sign or symptom or function is a positive sign. So for example, a positive sign is tinnitus or tinnitus, that ringing in the ears. That is something extra that's added. Paresthesias, dysesthesias, these feelings that, these sensations, somatosensory sensations that are not evoked by stimuli, those are positive signs. There could be positive signs in the motor system. These could be excess movements, for example. But what we're going to see is that when the peripheral nervous system is damaged, you don't get positive signs on the motor side, you only get them on the sensory side. Okay, so what we're going to go through is what are the results of damage to the different nerves. Olfactory nerve, if you lose the olfactory nerve, and one reason that you might is because of whiplash, as you can imagine, that cribriform plate, the brain sits on top of it. If the whole brain goes hoot, hoot, really quickly, the whole brain goes like that, that connection that's going through the cribriform plate, you saw how delicate that is, those can shear off. And so one of the things that people do when they get a person into the emergency room that's had a whiplash type of experience is they'll make sure that the person they'll test whether the person can smell. So if they cannot smell, this is a negative sign, it's anosmia. And if there is an anosmia, it is often accompanied by a positive sign, which is phantom smells. And these phantom smells tend to be bad phantom smells. So you're smelling rotten food, or it smells like rotten eggs, or something that is not pleasant. So these are the result of olfactory lesions. Optic lesion, if you cut the optic nerve, for example, that eye is going to be blind. You're not going to see anything. That's a negative sign. If in the case of not a cut to the optic nerve, but say, for example, a retinal detachment, one of the things that people will experience are these flashes of light. They're called phosphenes. And this is a positive sign. This is as you're taking away as you're lesioning the retina, you're getting this positive sign, these flashes of light that are not there but are perceived. In the oculomotor, you get diplopia, which means double vision. And there are some other consequences of this. Another consequence is a droopy eyelid. Remember that the levator palpebri is innervated by the oculomotor nerve, and so you'll get a droopy eyelid, which is called ptosis. And you will also get a blown pupil, because the oculomotor is responsible for constricting the pupil, and if that's lesion, the pupil gets really, really wide. Okay, so that's a blown pupil. But you don't get any positive signs from an oculomotor lesion. Trochlear lesion, you get again diplopia. If one of the muscles, and we'll see an example of this, if one of the muscles is not working to correctly align the eyes, then the two eyes are going to see different things. If this eye is looking here and that eye is looking there, we are seeing two different scenes on our two different retinas, and that's getting merged in the brain to show us two different images simultaneously, and that we experience as double vision or diplopia. With the trigeminal nerve, the result is an anesthesia. The negative sign is an anesthesia. You've lost the ability to sense stimuli. This is, in general, not as bothersome to people, but it is extremely dangerous in a couple of places, most notably with the eye. So your eye needs to be able to detect foreign matter in the eye and to blink to protect the cornea from damage. So an inability to detect foreign bodies in the eye leads to an inability to person not blinking and not protecting their eye. This is extremely dangerous, can lead to blindness if that's not corrected and solved. So people that have a problem with the trigeminal nerve, we have to worry about protecting the cornea. There's also a positive sign here, which is the release of paresthesias or dysesthesias referred to anywhere on the face. And so one example of this is called trigeminal neuralgia. Trigeminal neuralgia is also known as tic douloureux. It's a sharp, lancinating, shooting pain that goes through one of the nerve distributions of the trigeminal nerve. And so, for example, one might have a shooting, lancinating pain that goes along the jaw. And this is a very distressing experience, and it is so overwhelming that it has led affected individuals who cannot get relief to consider or possibly even commit suicide. So this is a really big problem. There are the drugs to treat it. There are drugs to treat it. They don't work in every person, but there's progress being made all the time. And this has to be aggressively treated because the consequence, the human consequence, the emotional consequence of this experience is so devastating. Okay. We go to abducens. We're back in extraocular land. So once again, the effect is a diplopia, a double vision. Now, when we get to the facial nerve, there are several problems that occur. There's several negative symptoms. The most obvious of which is that you can't move your face. You can't make facial expressions on half of your face. So if the right facial nerve is affected, then the right half of the face is not going to move for any reason. You cannot voluntarily move it. You can't move it because you're happy or sad. You can't move it for any reason. In addition, you will stop making tears on that side. You will stop making saliva on that side. The tears is going to be a problem. You will have problems. There are two ways to blink your eyes, to close your eyes, and one of those is affected by the facial nerve. A facial nerve lesion. One is affected by the oculomotor. So this has consequences in protecting the eye. There's the loss of taste from the front 2/3 of the tongue. Not a huge deal. There's lots of taste buds elsewhere, so a person is typically not going to notice that. They might be able to report it if you test for it. Okay. Now, on the positive sign for the facial nerve is there's a paradysesthesia from the ear. Remember that there's a piece of the ear that comes in, that sends its somatosensory information in from a part of the ear into the hindbrain through the facial nerve. So I told you that a disease a condition that affects the facial nerve is called Bell's palsy, and it typically follows some kind of a viral infection. And the first sign of a Bell's palsy infection is typically recognized after the fact. They say, oh, well, before I stopped being able to move my face, I had some pain in my ear. So this is oftentimes the harbinger of a future Bell's palsy presentation. The vestibulocochlear nerve causes deafness and disequilibrium. These are the negative signs. The positive sign for the vestibulocochlear is tinnitus. It might also be some sensation of either disequilibrium or vertigo. I just want to introduce that distinction, the distinction between disequilibrium and vertigo right now. We'll come back to this several more times. So disequilibrium simply means that you do not feel in balance. You do not feel in equilibrium even as you're standing or sitting or possibly even laying. So it's a problem with what we would call linear acceleration. So you're just standing here. There's nothing going on but gravity, and yet because your vestibular system is not working correctly, you feel out of balance, even though you're not out of balance. The other type of dysfunction from the vestibular cochlear nerve or the vestibular system is vertigo, and that is the perception that either you or the surrounding area, the surrounding environment, is rotating. So this is a disruption of our perception of angular acceleration, whereas disequilibrium is our disruption of our perception of linear acceleration. And we'll come back, we'll go over that several more times. Once we get to the glossopharyngeal and the vagus, the two big problems are that people are going to notice are difficulty swallowing, which is called dysphagia, difficulty talking, dysarthria. They're also going to they might have a problem with gag reflex, but it's important to remember that about 30% of healthy people don't have a gag reflex, so it's not particularly diagnostic. They also will have a problem with the cough reflex, which is more critical. And with the glossopharyngeal or the vagus, there are also going to be these paresthesias or dysesthesias from the ear, just as was true for the facial, because both of these nerves carry a little bit of somatosensory information from the ear. Okay. Finally, with spinal accessory nerves and hypoglossal nerves, what you're going to see are just simply negative signs. So these are negative signs. The innervated muscles will not be able to be moved for any reason. Okay, all of that. So what you see again is that positive signs only occur where there is a sensory component. Here is a list of all of these issues, and here's a list of all these issues. And what we're now going to do is we're going to go and look at where these nerves, these cranial nerves, come out of the brain from.